Hey everybody, it's Midwest Comic Man, back at it in the new year with hopefully a little less excitement than we had last year. For this episode of Creator Spotlight, I'll be looking at what I consider one of the most underrated artists from the EC stable. You ask people what their favorite EC artist is, and you're always going to get answers of Jack Davis, Graham Ingles, Johnny Craig. Very rarely will you hear the name George Evans, which is a shame because his line work was impeccable and very distinct. George Evans was born in 1920 in Harwood, Pennsylvania. He took correspondence art courses as a youngster, and he sold some work to pulp magazines as a teenager. During World War II, he was an aircraft mechanic, which started a lifelong love for aviation. After World War II, he had a staff position at Fiction House, where he sat next to teenage artist Frank Frazetta. He did Lost World in Planet Comics, Tiger Man in Rangers Comics, and a lot of work in Wings Comics, which he enjoyed. He hit his stride when he went to work for EC Comics, where he was a regular contributor and was able to work on what was the favorite comic book work he did, Aces High. He was well liked by his fellow artists, with no less than Johnny Craig saying he was very underrated, and he used to study Evans' work to better understand how to prove his own work. After EC, he did some work for Classics Illustrated, Dell, Gold Key. He did a couple things for DC and Marvel, nothing major. For the latter part of his career, he ghosted on newspaper comic strips, including Terry and the Pirates and Secret Agent Corrigan. Here are 10 of his greatest covers in no particular order. First, we have Shock Suspense Story 16. Classic gray tone wash cover. I love how the panel is lit by the yellowish green glow from the lamp, as a security guard is held down and beaten by two criminals. Tons of detail on this one, and the poses of the characters really captures the action. Next is Piracy 7. This might be my all-time favorite cover by Evans, as I collect Frogman covers, and this is an amazing one. Again, the amount of detail is incredible, with intricate details on the diving mask, a shark approaching to attack, a chest full of gold, and the specter of a Spanish galleon in the background. Doesn't get any better than this. This is one of my top comics I want to get this year. Next, we have Aces High 1. This is the title that was George Evans' favorite work of his career. While a short run, it allowed him to really shine with his love for aviation art. First issue depicts a wild scrum in the air above a German aerodrome in World War I. Planes wildly maneuver in air-to-air combat as a lone pilot aims his plane downward to strafe the aerodrome, which is already in flames, as there are several planes and people scurrying around on the ground. It's just amazing work. Next is Aces High number 2. Another great aerial combat scene from World War I. I particularly love how the German pilot is shaking his fist at the British pilot swooping in to shoot him down. As always, the planes are drawn accurately to the littlest detail, including a line of bullets stitched along the fuselage of the German plane. Next is Aces High 3. Great shot of a British pilot doing a triumphant loop as a German observation balloon is on fire in the background. You can see the parachutes of the Germans opening as they attempt to escape the burning wreckage. I mean, you got the fields on the ground, clouds. It's just really well done. Next is Aces High number 4. Not quite sure what the German pilot has in his hand. It looks like it's either a chain or a whip, but the attention to detail in this piece is amazing. Everything is rendered in exquisite detail, down to period-accurate markings on the planes. I wouldn't be surprised if Evans copied the exact markings from actual planes. Next is Aces High 5. This is the only World War II cover of the run, but again, detail is paramount. You have a Japanese Zero diving on a Taiwanese plane as another Taiwanese fighter gets the Zero in his sights. Yellow background on this really makes the image pop, and it's just a really great cover. Next is Weird War Tales 18. Evans did some great covers for Weird War Tales, and this is one of my favorites. Got a US soldier just wrapped up in barbed wire, defending himself from a German skeleton, which is coming at him, bayonet raised. There's great detail, especially on the tattered uniforms of both soldiers, which has been ripped and torn from all the barbed wire. Really good stuff. Next, we have Weird War Tale 17. Another great aerial combat cover with a weird War Tales twist. Skeletal Spectre has no side as he's crushing planes from both Britain and Germany. One wonders if the pilots would put aside their differences to attack the common foe. There are reports of stuff like that happening in World War I, but really not much anything after that. Finally, we have Crime Suspense Stories number 23. This is one of the ECs that was used as evidence in the Senate hearings on juvenile delinquency in 1954, and it's plain to see why. Anger on the face of the man, the terror on the face of the woman being strangled, it's rendered in exquisite detail. Amidst many shocking covers that they showed in the trial, this one stands out because there is absolutely nothing cartoony about it. It could be a crime scene photo. George Evans died on June 22, 2001 in Pennsylvania. His last published work was the Sunday page for Flash Gordon on January 21st of that year. He left behind a great body of work, but also the respect of his colleagues, who he cared about tremendously. When Frank Frazetta and Reed Crandall couldn't find any work in the 1960s, George farmed out some of his work to them to keep them afloat. In addition, he was the one who reunited Graham Ingalls with his estranged daughter 30 years after he left the family. Every interview I've seen with the EC crew, they always say the same thing about George Evans. Not only was he an impeccable artist, but he was just a really great guy. And that's about the best legacy anyone can hope for. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button, sub up to Comic Gore, sub up my private channel. The next episode of Creator Spotlight is going to be Bernie Wrightson, so keep your eye out for that. Working on the next episode of Inside the Covers, which will spotlight a Golden Age key. Those always take longer because there's a lot more work involved in it, but hopefully that'll be out soon. If there are any creators you'd like to see spotlighted, or an issue you'd like to see on Inside the Covers, let me know in the comments below. Make sure you tune in for Golden Guys on Tuesday night, a weekly journey into the Golden Age of comics with a motley group of characters. The Comic Core on Friday nights, a happy hour of the comic community where anything can happen, and other live content nightly. For my comic community shout out this episode, please check out the Comic Board. Currently at 170 subs, Blackpole has returned after a lengthy absence. Let's welcome him back with some subs. Check him out, sub him up, and let's get him to make some more videos. Until next time, this is Midwest Comic Man, coming at you from the funny pages.